Now, Arsenal have been doing very well this season and are currently top of the Premier League despite having an incredibly hard schedule. Now, Martin Zubimendi has been a big point of discussion for many Arsenal fans, but I think now we have finally started to see the real outcome of him in the team and just why Arsenal are better with him in it. But why is that? Let's get into it. Now, Martin Zubimendi being one of Arsenal's best players in the last couple of games, in the last month you could say, probably wouldn't be that much of a surprise for me given how much I loved him in the summer, but a lot of other people who expected this when he came in. Now, for Zubimendi, there's obviously going to be a lot of negative criticism of him, which I don't think is fair. There's also a lot of positive hyperbolic of him as well because people want him to succeed, and I do think there has been a bit of time for Arsenal where he's still trying to get used to the system, the players around him, and how we need to play, because let's not forget, at Sociedad he played very different to he did in this team. Now, when he came in, a lot of people assumed that he was going to be this sitting defensive midfielder that would kind of sweep up the ball, help the team in areas, and to be quite good on the ball, being quite attacking. Now, some of them in terms of attacking has been true, but he is definitely not a sitter. If you look at his heat map from just the West Ham game alone, and then you look for the entire season, you can see that there's obviously a lot of areas where he's picking the ball up in deep, where this is usually he's helping with build up, he's helping get the movement around in the defense so we can break the press, and we spoke about that in detail in the Odegaard video if you want to go and watch that. So he obviously is going to have to be that first line to get us up the pitch. That obviously makes sense, but a lot of his heat map as well has been in quite attacking areas. Now, there's a certain level of Arsenal being able to play these mid-block teams, which we have struggled against, but we're getting the ball quite high up. I mean, against West Ham, a lot of the time they sat back in this block and we could do whatever we wanted with the ball and took our time. You can see Zubimendi at sometimes pick the ball up in these deeper areas as outside the block or inside the block if he needs to, and this obviously will help him get attacking areas, but there's a lot of difference as well about that. Now, just quickly talking about these sort of block situations, we don't need to go into the full tactical details because we'll be going over that in the next few days with some other players that might be quite interesting. But with Zubimendi, you expect for him to pick the ball up in these situations. I mean, this was one of the examples I have from the West Ham game. That's why Calafiori's being mental and over here at this point. But Zubimendi, you expect him to be able to probably shift the ball over to his right-hand side quickly, which does quite a lot. And a lot of times just be able to be quick passes into the middle, quick into Eze, quick into Woklz, allow to hold the ball up and then maybe give a chance to the team. And ultimately, when the ball is in these situations with Woklz, you expect Zubimendi to just kind of roam this area and block oncoming traffic and kind of be that last line of defense, sometimes playing as the two with Gabriel, as we have one of our centre backs kind of moved up in this area. Now, obviously he does that a lot and that is great and we expected that, but there's a lot of times as well, especially with Rice. I would say him and Rice's movement together has been really good. We've seen Rice come into this area sometimes, like West Ham, he's a lot more in it as he obviously scored his goal, but sometimes Rice does sit deeper with Zubimendi. They're very tight together, and sometimes Zubimendi goes missing into the right half channel. This isn't as much with Odegaard in the team, but you have seen it quite a bit with Eze when Eze moves over to the left hand side and he kind of roams at the moment, Eze in between the second and third lines. You can see Zubimendi not only make that pass into him from deeper, but also make these runs into the box. There's a few times when there's certain situations that entail it and Calafiori's probably back in his position, Timber actually won't be in that position. It'll be Zubimendi helping the triangles, and all the time Zubimendi isn't really going to receive the ball here. He can, but it is going to be more likely that he will take a player away with a good run and he will create space for other players, and also there's some intricate passes he can do in these big moments. Now, in terms of that on-the-ball work by Zubimendi, if you look at where his passes are usually, there's a lot down to the right-hand side, like we saw with Partey last year, but exactly what we expected. There is so much variance to his passing as well. He's doing passes out to the left, to the wingers quickly, which is very important. He isn't someone that always does really long passes. That is more of that Declan Rice quarterback-style defending, but he can do that passes as well. But the big thing about him is that he tries and does risky passes between the lines nearly all the time. Now, against Olympiacos, he plays a lone six, and from an attacking perspective, Zubimendi in this game, I think, had a great idea of showing exactly what he's about in these areas. A lot of people called him the metronome, the guy that calms things down. He understands tempo really well, and he definitely does understand tempo really well. There's something that I think Arsenal have broadly struggled with before the Newcastle game, and I think we've improved it over the last week or so. But Zubimendi is always on it, and it's not been a secret that we've all seen. Every single time this guy receives the ball, he is always always trying to play the ball forward every single moment. When he picks the ball up in deeper areas and he's getting pressed, he tries to get the ball in a forward area and will only pass it back if he has to do it in the end, not losing the ball. This has caused Arsenal to be super attacking and super impactful going forward. It's no secret that Arsenal have been trying to do more direct attacks this year, attacked quicker than we have in any other year in the past, and although there has been some teething issues and there's not always worked as best as we wanted to, sometimes it has. One of the big reasons I think that we even signed Woklz and people like Eze is because this counter-attacking notion can happen with Zubimendi's insane quick passing. Something I criticise Partey for was that sometimes he did take too long on the ball to make a decision, and sometimes we're a little bit more predictable, but Zubimendi every single moment wants to put that ball through and will do some incredible passes to it. We mentioned that he loves passing it in between the lines, but it is something that he has become notable at, and there is still probably a little bit of a bias to Zubimendi to pass his right hand side, but we have seen that when he receives the ball, he will quickly pass it off as much as he can, and it gets you in these positions that matter the most. Now, it's in the positives of it, obviously the goal against Leeds where he wins the ball back, he puts it straight into Timber, into Saka, and we score. That quick motion helped because even that space, giving us a 2v1 on the right, but it's also not also worked. At Olympiacos, there's a lot of passes, I think later on in the game where we're only 1-0 up, where he needs to calm it down. When the 89th minute, he is trying to put a 30-yard through ball pass, which is great, but it's not always the best idea. I feel like he did that a lot, and the team weren't really on that same sort of level as him, which I'm sure he will learn more he plays with the team. But the thing is, even though his passes are so experimental, they're so attacking a lot of the time, you look at his stats, they are nearly incredible, but even given he takes loads of risks and he still creates chances from DM, he's not even really a DM at this point. He kind of is a bit of an 8 sometimes. And I think in terms of getting the ball into the channels quicker, it has helped Arsenal be a lot more efficient in the box. And I also think there's a lot of other reasons why the attack is starting to finally click, which we've seen the last few weeks. Now, as a defender, we mentioned against Olympiacos, he plays a lone 6, and there's definitely been an idea of resting Rice in some games to allow him to play it. Now, Zubimendi has not been the biggest tackler in the world. He's made a good amount of tackles and won a decent amount of duels per game. He gets about 50-50 so far for the season. But overall, Zubimendi is just really intelligent. Now, there is moments that Arsenal give up opportunities in a lone 6 because I think he is, like we said, a little bit too quick with the ball and it might give it up. And he's not someone that is going to be able to cover loads and loads of area. He's not that aggressive. He's not that quick. So there will be a few times that against a 2v1 in midfield, which can happen, he can get manned up on and there could be shots, especially from outside the box, that happen. But one of the big things about him in defensive areas, which has really helped the team, is doing the actual difference to Partey. Partey's biggest problem for Arsenal, I think, last season, and probably at the club, was that when we were sitting in a block and we had to sit deeper, he really liked sitting next to the centre-backs instead of in front of them, defending that area. We saw that goal against Pedro Neto is probably the easiest one to remember against Chelsea. He comes into the middle, he receives the ball. Partey should be there covering that role, but he's back with the centre-backs not understanding the line, or I don't really know why he was there, and he did this quite a lot. This wasn't just a one-time thing. Now, Zubimendi not only is a brilliant sitter in front of the box, but when you've got tighter areas, when the team comes back and helps, he is incredible at having great positioning, jumping when he needs to, and making sure people in the block don't receive the ball. But it's more the fact that people can't get shots from just outside the box now because he is always there, which is becoming a brilliant thing for the team. And overall, he is exactly what we expected. He's just a better Jorginho in these defensive areas. He's very intelligent at seeing the danger. He only exerts energy when he needs to and will only jump to the areas where he feels like he needs to in the moment, and his intelligence really helps with that. And we don't need that really brute aggressive player when you've usually got a Rice there, a Norgard there sometimes, or even an Odegaard who is probably a little bit even more aggressive. So I think with all them players involved, it is absolutely fine for Zubimendi to give us that sort of motion. There's obviously lower games where he will probably be trusted as a lone 6 again. Obviously, Arsenal will give up opportunities, but the thinking is we are better going forward with Zubimendi in the team, which I understand and think it makes sense to take that risk when you need to rest players anyway. Now, one of the things I wanted to point out about Zubimendi as well is that this guy's aerially is genuinely unbelievable. Now, when he came into Arsenal, there's a few stats online and the Real Sociedad forums and stuff that he had one of the best duel percentages in the air for any player in La Liga, which might be surprising surprising given he is a pretty small central midfielder. Now, watching him, he has got the same thing I think Timber has, and it's an insane leap. His ability to jump off the ground from the standard position and even momentum, I guess you could say, is incredible. It's the exact same thing we see with Timber, not being the tallest player, but can compete with anyone in the air because he's just so good and so quick at getting up laterally in the air. Zubimendi has been exceptional for Arsenal in duels aerially. And when you think that Arsenal could be a team that you can kick the ball long to, maybe lose a bit of concentration, he is a player alongside Gabriel and Saliba that can help so much, which allows Gabriel not have to always come out from the defence to head balls away at the halfway line. You can have Zubimendi do that a lot more. And this helps in terms of like defending corners, in terms of them defending them crosses with his heading ability. And it's something that I think is a real good thing to talk about. It's becoming a real notion about him. And I think in the first few games, there was a few clicking issues that you worried about, but overall, it's not as bad. And I think the main thing to kind of quantify why Zubimendi helps the team is that at the start of the season, we've seen Wirtz and we've seen other players complain that have come into the league that in England, you just don't get time to think. You have 1 second to make a decision, and that is the problem with all of it. Now, against West Ham, for instance, our game the other day, Zubimendi creates both of the goals that we score by quick, excisive movement. Obviously, you've probably seen that video on social media where they talk about Zubimendi's through ball to Eze to have the shot. Comes in a 1 second thinking. He picks the ball up and in 1 second releases it, which is too quick for defenders to act, but he has to do it in that time. If not, he will lose the ball. And the thing is with Zubimendi, when he goes into these right attacking half spaces, he isn't like Partey. He is confident on the ball. He is an attacker. He plays like someone that isn't a 6 at all. And this is allowing him to put balls through to players quickly. Even the second goal is the exact same. Arsenal are kind of playing it around the back. There's no intensity on the ball. Timber makes a run and Zubimendi instantly tries to find that ball. Timber wins the pen. We go and make it 2-0. And these passes are very important because we just don't have players that are always thinking proactively in trying to score goals, unlike Zubimendi, who's always thinking about that worth. And in the last 3 games, Arsenal created over a 1xG from not corners in all of them, which is something that a lot of people are saying, can Arteta even do? Well, he clearly can. And it's already improved so much because of the levels I think Zuba brings, and obviously Rice and Odegaard and Eze, who have been brilliant as well. But you're starting to see the team click a bit. And at the start of the season, I don't think Zubimendi played brilliant against United. I don't think he played brilliant against Liverpool in the summer games. But it is early days and it takes time to get involved in this game. And I think that now you're starting to see it in every game we're playing. So I'm not surprised he's being nominated for all these awards. Now let me know in the comments what you guys think about Martin Zubimendi, and let me know what you think about this video. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next one.